Get out of my pool now. 50 strangers in my backyard, trashing everything. HOA President Karen Whitfield didn't even flinch. Relax, honey. Pool party for the community fundraiser. I never agreed to this, she waved dismissively. Oh, didn't you get the memo? All homeowners must participate in community events. It's in the bylaws. The nerve. I'd just blown my entire divorce settlement on this pool, $45,000 of blood, sweat, and tears. Some drunk idiot just shattered my patio table. Kids were diving into my pristine saltwater system with muddy feet. The stench of spilled beer and entitlement filled the air. This is trespassing, Karen smirked from her stolen pool float. Sue me, sweetie. Good luck proving I don't have community access rights. What would you do if your HOA hijacked your property? Comment your location below. Every neighborhood has one of these power-hungry maniacs. Let me back up. My name's Riley Blake, and 6 months ago I thought I'd escaped hell. 18 months of divorce proceedings left me with $85,000 and desperate need for a fresh start. So I bought a corner lot in Pinewood Estates' picture-perfect planned community, where $285 monthly HOA fees buy you manicured lawns and the illusion of peace. The previous owner, sweet Mr. Kowalski, had lived there 20 years without causing ripples. When I toured his house, old coffee grounds and Old Spice cologne still lingered in the air like ghosts of simpler times. My deed explicitly stated, pool installation rights included, 3 words that would unleash a war. But every paradise has a predator. Meet Karen Whitfield, 53, 4-term HOA president, neighborhood surveillance expert. Picture surgically perfect blonde hair, designer activewear that's never touched a gym, and a white Escalade so pristine it could double as an operating room. She treats our 147-home community like her personal fiefdom. My first taste of Karen's attention came during construction week 2. Tuesday morning, 7:45 a.m. 15 minutes after quiet hours, when she appeared at my door clutching a clipboard like it contained nuclear codes. Riley, sweetie, we have a situation. Her voice dripped artificial honey that made my morning coffee taste like poison. Multiple residents complained about your construction noise. The community has standards after all. Multiple complaints? I knew exactly 3 neighbors by name. Construction started at 8. Actually, honey, I personally witnessed your workers arriving at 7:47. That's a clear violation. She'd been watching, timing them with a stopwatch. This triggered an emergency HOA meeting in our beige community center that reeked of burnt coffee and broken dreams. Karen packed the room with her disciples, graciously allowing me 3 whole minutes to defend myself. We simply want what's best for property values, she announced, her smile sharp enough to slice diamonds. Surely we all agree on that priority. The way she weaponized all while boring holes through me with her stare made my skin crawl. But Karen's masterstroke came next. My pool completion got delayed 3 weeks because she kept challenging perfectly legal permits. Then the truth emerged. She'd contacted my pool company directly, impersonating an official authority. Ma'am, she seemed legit, my contractor admitted sheepishly. Had official forms, claimed she was preventing community liability issues, said you might lose your house if we continued without proper authorization. The sheer audacity was staggering. She'd convinced my contractor that I was endangering my property with my legal project. When construction finally resumed, Karen launched daily surveillance missions. Every morning at 8:01 a.m. sharp, she'd materialize with her precious notebook, documenting phantom violations. The metallic scratch of her pen against paper became my personal torture soundtrack. Just ensuring full compliance, sweetheart, she'd chirp while photographing my workers from 17 different angles. Soon neighbors started shooting me pitying glances. Dr. Sarah Martinez, our pediatrician, whispered warnings about Karen's previous victims. Marcus Thompson, a retired teacher and the only soul brave enough to challenge Queen Karen, shared war stories. She destroyed the Johnsons over fence height, Marcus revealed, measured it 23 times with different rulers until one finally showed a 1/4-inch violation. That's when the truth crystallized. This wasn't about community standards or property values. This was about dominance. Karen had ruled unchallenged so long that any homeowner threatening to outshine her became an enemy requiring elimination. My pool represented everything she couldn't control. Success, independence, the audacity to improve my property without begging permission. I thought harassment was her endgame. I was catastrophically wrong. Karen was just establishing dominance before the real assault began. 2 weeks later, Karen declared war, and she brought fake reinforcements. I was testing my pool's filtration system, savoring that perfect mechanical hum, when Karen's pristine Escalade invaded my driveway. She strutted out wearing a hard hat so new the price tag was probably still attached, clutching a clipboard thick enough to stop bullets. Behind her shuffled a guy in a wrinkled polo with "Inspector" printed on what looked like a church name tag. The smell of stale cigarettes and desperation followed him like a lost puppy. "Riley, sweetie," Karen's voice could strip paint. "Meet Bill Morrison from County Safety. Time for your mandatory compliance review." This inspector looked about as official as a mall Santa in July. His equipment, a rusty tape measure, and a camera that belonged in the Smithsonian. "Ma'am, we've had reports," Bill mumbled, avoiding eye contact like a guilty teenager. "Safety violations. Electrical issues. Drainage problems. I have all my permits." "HOA standards exceed city codes, honey," Karen interrupted, her smile sharp enough to cut glass. "We're protecting everyone's investments here." They spent an hour measuring my pool deck with the precision of NASA engineers, photographing every angle like they were documenting a crime scene. Bill's heavy breathing mixed with Karen's aggressive pen scratching created the world's most annoying soundtrack. But Karen had just made a fatal error. That night, my divorce-sharpened research skills kicked in. My attorney had drilled into me, always verify anyone claiming authority. Real inspectors carry official credentials, work for legitimate agencies, and document everything publicly. This clown had none of that. Discovery number 1 made me laugh out loud. Bill Morrison wasn't a county inspector. DMV records showed he drove delivery trucks for Karen's husband's mortgage company. LinkedIn confirmed it, he was Karen's brother-in-law. The family business apparently included fraud. Discovery number 2 made me giggle. The violation letter was dated 3 days before their visit. Karen had written up violations before even seeing my pool. I remembered my lawyer's words about pre-written documents being smoking guns and harassment cases. Discovery number 3 made me downright giddy. Impersonating government officials carries 6 months jail time in our state. But the absolute jackpot made me pour a celebration drink. Karen's own 2019 deck expansion was completely unpermitted. 400 square feet of illegal construction, and she'd never filed a single form. The next morning, I made 3 calls that would ruin Karen's week. County Inspector's Office. "No Bill Morrison here, ma'am. Want to file charges for impersonation?" State HOA oversight. Pre-written violations are textbook harassment. Investigation starts immediately. County planning. Unpermitted additions. We love surprise inspections. 2 days later, Karen got her own certified letter. Watching her sign for it through my window was better than cable TV. Her hands actually shook as she read the return address. Her phone call was even better. I could hear her shrieking at someone, probably her husband, through my closed windows. The panic in her voice tasted sweeter than my morning coffee. 20 minutes later, she was pounding on my door. "Riley, there's been a terrible misunderstanding. About your brother-in-law's fake badge or your illegal deck?" She turned whiter than her Escalade. Bill was just being thorough. Community safety. Cut the crap, Karen. I've documented everything. Phone records, witness statements, photos of his Dollar Tree inspector badge. For the first time in 4 years, the neighborhood tyrant was speechless. This woman who'd crushed spirits and bank accounts stood on my doorstep looking like she'd seen a ghost. But here's where things got interesting. Instead of apologizing or backing down, Karen's face twisted into something ugly. "You think you're so smart," she hissed. "You have no idea what you've started." "Is that a threat?" "It's a promise, sweetie. This community has ways of dealing with troublemakers." She stomped back to her SUV, but before driving off, she rolled down her window. "Enjoy your pool while you can." The engine roar as she peeled out of my driveway sent chills down my spine. I'd expected submission, maybe even an apology. Instead, I'd just declared war on someone with nothing left to lose. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Check your homeowner's insurance policy. Accidents happen." That's when I realized I hadn't won anything. I'd just escalated from harassment to something much more dangerous. Karen wasn't retreating, she was regrouping. And judging by that text message, round 2 was going to be a lot more personal. That anonymous text was just Karen's opening shot in a psychological warfare campaign that would have impressed the CIA. Within 48 hours, My life became a fishbowl of judgment. It started with whispered conversations that died when I appeared, the grocery store checkout line, suddenly silent except for the aggressive beeping of scanners. The metallic taste of anxiety became my constant companion. Then, Dr. Martinez cornered me at the mailboxes, her usual calm demeanor replaced by barely contained worry. "Riley, Karen's been busy. Phone calls to every parent at school pickup, neighborhood watch meetings, even her wine and gossip book club. She's telling everyone your pool is illegally constructed, that you're threatening property values, that you've been," she paused, "harassing city officials." My stomach dropped like a broken elevator. She's weaponizing my legitimate complaints? Worse. She's making you sound unhinged. People are starting to believe her. The evidence was everywhere. Neighbors who used to wave now found urgent hedges to trim when I appeared. The Hendersons kids, who'd always run to pet my dog, were suddenly called inside whenever I walked by. But Karen's nuclear option came Thursday night, an emergency HOA meeting that felt more like a public execution. I expected maybe 15 people. Instead, 47 residents packed the community center like they were watching gladiators fight. The air reeked of burnt coffee and bloodlust. "Thank you for prioritizing community safety," Karen began, standing behind a laptop like a prosecutor with evidence. "We have serious concerns requiring immediate attention." She'd prepared a fucking PowerPoint presentation. Slides with photos of my pool, red arrows pointing at imaginary problems, bullet points listing fabricated dangers. Drainage issues threaten the Petersons Foundation. Electrical violations risk neighborhood fires. And the construction disruption has affected residents' health and well-being. The lies flowed smoother than aged whiskey. But her real masterstroke came during community input. Mrs. Patterson rose like a wronged widow. "The construction noise triggered my migraines. I've barely slept in weeks. My realtor says the whole street's property values are dropping," Mr. Kim added, nodding gravely. One by one, Karen's disciples testified to my crimes against suburban tranquility. The sound of their manufactured outrage mixed with folding chair squeaks created a symphony of orchestrated hatred. Then Marcus Thompson stood up, his military bearing cutting through the bullshit like a sword. "I'd like to see evidence supporting these claims." Silence fell like a dropped anvil. "I live next door to Riley. No excessive noise, no drainage issues, no property value concerns. So where exactly are these problems?" Dr. Martinez joined the rebellion. "As a medical professional, I recognize safety violations. Riley's installation has been textbook perfect, licensed contractors, proper permits, city approval. What am I missing?" Karen's face cycled through red, purple, and back to red. Obviously, not everyone has technical expertise to... Technical expertise? Marcus's voice carried enough authority to stop tanks. "I built infrastructure in combat zones. I think I can spot a drainage problem." The room's energy shifted like tectonic plates. Karen was losing control, but she had one final grenade. "Fine, since you're all so confident about your neighbor's integrity." She produced a manila folder with theatrical flair. "I've been corresponding with city officials about the harassment they've endured from certain residents." Ice water replaced the blood in my veins. Frivolous complaints, wasted taxpayer resources, false accusations against city employees. The inspector's office is considering legal action against residents who abuse the system with neighborhood vendettas. Fucking brilliant. She'd turned my legitimate reports about her fake inspector into evidence of my instability. Several neighbors shifted uncomfortably, shooting glances my way. The taste of defeat filled my mouth like copper pennies. But then Marcus smiled, and that smile was terrifying. "Karen, I'd love to examine those city documents. Official correspondence includes case numbers, reference codes, supervisor signatures. Mind sharing those specifics?" "That's not really..." "Because I called the city after this meeting was announced. Interesting conversation. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Karen's triumphant expression flickered like a dying light bulb. "They mentioned an active investigation into inspector impersonation. Said they were extremely grateful to the whistleblower who reported it. Called it a serious felony that endangered public safety." Karen's face went whiter than fresh cocaine. "They also mentioned expanding their investigation to include unpermitted construction violations throughout the neighborhood. Apparently, several properties have illegal additions never filed with the county." The room erupted in whispers as neighbors remembered Karen's mysteriously expanded deck. But instead of surrender, Karen's eyes flashed with something darker than anger, desperation mixed with pure malice. "This meeting is adjourned," she announced, slamming her laptop shut. As people filed out, she cornered me near the exit. "You think Marcus can protect you?" she whispered, her breath hot against my ear. "Think again, sweetie. I know where you work." That threat hit me like a physical blow. My job, my livelihood, was about to become Karen's next target. Karen's threat about my job wasn't idle. She struck with surgical precision, aimed at destroying my entire life. Monday morning, I was debugging code when my phone exploded with the worst call possible. "Riley, we need to talk immediately." My boss's voice carried the chill of corporate death. "Someone filed an ethics complaint claiming you've been using company resources for personal vendettas, harassing government officials, and engaging in what they call domestic terrorism." The taste of copper pennies flooded my mouth. "That's insane." "Administrative leave, effective immediately. Security will escort you out." The humiliation burned like acid as I packed my desk while colleagues whispered. 12 years of spotless performance destroyed by Karen's lies. The smell of shame followed me to the parking garage. Tuesday brought round two. My pool contractor called, voice shaking with panic. "Riley, the Better Business Bureau is investigating us for fraud. Someone filed detailed complaints claiming we're unlicensed, dangerous, using substandard materials. They're threatening to shut us down. That's impossible." Gets worse. Someone also called our insurance company, claiming we caused property damage and safety violations. Our coverage might be canceled. Wednesday delivered the kill shot. My mortgage company. "Ms. Blake, we've received concerning information about unauthorized modifications violating your loan agreement. Someone provided photos suggesting major structural changes without our approval. We're requiring immediate inspection and possible loan acceleration." Loan acceleration. They could demand full payment of my $340,000 mortgage within 30 days. Karen wasn't just trying to ruin me, she was trying to make me homeless. That evening, Detective Morrison appeared at my door, his expression grim as winter. "Ms. Blake, I'm investigating multiple complaints filed against you. Identity theft, harassment of elderly neighbors, impersonating city officials, filing false police reports." My legs nearly buckled. "I'm the victim here." "Ma'am, I have sworn statements from 3 residents claiming you've been terrorizing them. Photos of alleged damage to their property. Voice recordings of threatening phone calls. The room spun like a carnival ride. Karen had built an entire false narrative with multiple witnesses, fake evidence, fabricated recordings. She'd turned the entire neighborhood against me while positioning herself as the terrified victim. "Do you have documentation supporting your side of events?" Thank God for my software engineering paranoia. I pulled up my evidence folder's screenshots, timestamps, audio recordings, witness statements, but as Detective Morrison reviewed them, his frown deepened. "This is impressive documentation, but there's a problem. The complainants are claiming you fabricated all this evidence to cover your harassment campaign." My blood turned to ice water. Karen had anticipated my evidence and neutralized it by claiming I'd faked everything. "They're saying you used your technical skills to create false timestamps, edit audio recordings, even manipulate photographs. The elderly residents are terrified you'll escalate to physical violence." The genius of Karen's strategy hit me like a sledgehammer. She'd weaponized my own competence against me. The better my documentation, the more it proved I was a skilled manipulator capable of elaborate deception. "Detective, you have to believe me. Ms. Blake, I have to follow the evidence. Right now, that evidence suggests you're either a victim of an elaborate conspiracy or you're running a sophisticated harassment campaign against vulnerable neighbors." He handed me a temporary restraining order. "You're forbidden from contacting Karen Whitfield, attending HOA meetings, or approaching any of the complainants. Violation means immediate arrest." The paper felt like burning coal in my hands. Thursday morning brought the final domino. My employer's security department called. "Riley, the ethics investigation has expanded. The complainant provided evidence of you using company equipment to hack into government databases and neighbors' personal information. We're cooperating with law enforcement. Hacking charges, felony territory, prison time." I sat in my kitchen surrounded by the ruins of my life when Marcus knocked on my door. His usually confident demeanor was replaced by something I'd never seen before. Fear. "Riley, we need to talk, but not here. Your house might be bugged." "What?" "Karen's husband works in mortgages. He has connections to private investigators, digital forensics experts, people who specialize in destroying lives through legal channels. This isn't just neighborhood drama anymore. We walked to the park, the crunch of gravel under our feet providing cover for our whispered conversation. She's planning something big for the emergency HOA meeting tonight. I heard her on the phone talking about final solutions and permanent removal of problems. The autumn air carried the smell of dying leaves and impending doom. Marcus, I can't even attend HOA meetings. I have a restraining order. His smile was grim as winter. That's exactly what she's counting on. She's going to call for a vote to force you to sell your house. Claims you're a danger to community safety. Can she do that? Not legally. But if she convinces enough neighbors you're a threat, they might not care about legality. The trap was perfect. Karen had isolated me legally, professionally, and socially. Now she was moving in for the kill. There's something else, Marcus whispered. I think she's been planning this for months. Maybe longer. What do you mean, months? I whispered, glancing around the empty park like we were discussing state secrets. Marcus pulled out a manila folder that looked older than my divorce papers. Tommy Kowalski came by yesterday. Found this stuff behind a false wall in his grandfather's basement. The old man hid it before he died. The musty smell of aged documents mixed with the scent of rotting leaves hit me as he opened the folder. Inside were yellowed papers, faded blueprints, and bank statements that made my vision blur. Original HOA incorporation documents from 2019, Marcus explained, his voice tight with controlled rage. Look at this line item. He pointed to a budget entry that made my knees buckle. Community pool construction, $180,000 collected from all residents. Every single homeowner paid monthly assessments for 18 months. Karen collected this money for a community pool that was supposed to be built exactly where the playground sits now. My hands trembled as I flipped through bank statements. Regular deposits, steady transfers, then suddenly, nothing. The money had vanished like smoke. Where did it go? Into the pockets of Whitfield Construction Management, Karen's brother's shell company. Same asshole who pretended to inspect your pool. The pieces snapped together like broken bones healing. She's been robbing the entire community. For years. Look at these invoices. They're itemized confessions. Karen's deck expansion, $47,000. Kitchen remodel, $38,000. Husband's Escalade, $65,000. Every luxury paid for with stolen community funds while she told neighbors the pool project was canceled due to unexpected costs. She embezzled $180,000 meant for our pool, then lived like royalty while we paid for amenities that never existed. The cosmic irony made my stomach acid bubble. And when I built my own pool, you became a walking, swimming reminder of what every neighbor had already paid for. Every barbecue by your pool, every photo on social media, it all screamed that Karen had stolen their dream and lied about it being impossible. But the real smoking gun was a handwritten note in Karen's distinctive script. Chen removal urgent. Pool visibility equals community questions about missing funds. Acquisition by any means necessary. She's been planning your destruction since move-in day, Marcus said, his military training evident in how he organized the evidence. Your pool isn't just embarrassing, it's a $45,000 monument to her crimes. Another document made my blood freeze. Insurance fraud claims where Karen reported the embezzled HOA funds as investment losses, collecting $85,000 in insurance payouts while keeping the original stolen money. Double dipping. She stole the money and got insurance to replace it. This isn't neighborhood drama anymore, Riley. This is organized crime with a homeowners association facade. Her husband provided mortgage access for background checks, her brother supplied fake credentials and fraudulent invoicing, and she controlled the community narrative to prevent questions. The final document was a pre-signed real estate contract. Motivated seller, pool removal included in sale price. She already has a buyer. One of her husband's mortgage clients who wants your corner lot but plans to fill in the pool immediately. She's been orchestrating your financial destruction and property seizure for months. The scope of Karen's criminal enterprise made my head spin like a slot machine. This wasn't petty harassment. This was federal racketeering with suburban window dressing. Marcus, this is RICO territory. Conspiracy, wire fraud, mail fraud, insurance fraud. Which explains why she's getting so desperate. Your pool is physical proof that the community pool was completely achievable. Every day you stay here increases the chance someone asks where their $180,000 went. The autumn wind carried the smell of burning leaves and approaching reckoning. Tonight's meeting isn't about harassment anymore, Marcus said, his expression darker than storm clouds. Karen's fighting for her freedom now, and people facing 20 years in federal prison don't limit themselves to legal tactics. The implication hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest. Karen wasn't just trying to destroy my life anymore. She was fighting to save her own. We need help. Professional help, I said, clutching the evidence folder like a lifeline. This is way beyond neighborhood drama. Marcus nodded grimly. I've already made some calls. My daughter Jessica, the digital forensics expert I mentioned, she's driving down from Seattle tonight, and Dr. Martinez has connections we're going to need. What kind of connections? Her ex-husband is a federal prosecutor specializing in financial crimes. They're divorced, but not bitter. Professional courtesy still applies. We spent the next hour in Marcus's garage, spreading documents across his workbench like generals planning a campaign. The smell of motor oil and justice mixed in the air as we built our case. Tommy Kowalski arrived first, carrying a box that clinked with the sound of more evidence. Found these in Grandpa's workshop, years of HOA meeting recordings. The old man was paranoid about Karen, recorded everything on these little digital devices. The recordings were gold. Karen's voice discussing creative accounting, her husband mentioning mortgage leverage opportunities, and her brother joking about inspector credentials that look real enough. We had them dead to rights. Dr. Martinez showed up with her own surprise, a forensic accountant named David Blake, no relation, despite the name, who specialized in HOA fraud cases. This is beautiful work, David said, examining the bank statements with the excitement of someone who'd found buried treasure. Clean paper trail, multiple fraud types, federal jurisdiction triggers. I can trace every dollar and prove criminal intent. But Jessica, Marcus's daughter, provided the technical breakthrough we needed. She'd driven 4 hours from Seattle with equipment that looked like it belonged in a sci-fi movie. Digital forensics is my specialty, she explained, connecting cables to her laptop setup. If Karen's been using computers or phones for this conspiracy, I can find the evidence. What she found made our case airtight. Karen's computer had emails discussing problem resident removal, her phone contained texts about insurance claim maximization, and her husband's laptop held mortgage fraud evidence dating back 3 years. They'd been running this scam on multiple HOA communities across the state. They're not just thieves, Jessica said, her fingers flying across keyboards. They're serial fraudsters. I found evidence of similar schemes in 4 other communities. This is a multi-million-dollar operation. Dr. Martinez's ex-husband, federal prosecutor James Webb, joined our strategy session via secure video call. His presence immediately elevated our amateur investigation to professional prosecution territory. You have enough evidence for RICO charges, Webb confirmed after reviewing our documentation. Racketeering, conspiracy, mail fraud, wire fraud, insurance fraud, money laundering. We're talking 20-year sentences for the primary conspirators. But he also delivered sobering news about the timeline. Federal investigations take months. Building cases this complex requires careful coordination with multiple agencies: FBI Financial Crimes Unit, IRS Criminal Investigation, postal inspectors for the mail fraud charges. Meanwhile, Karen's getting more desperate every day. What about tonight's meeting? I asked. Legally, you can't attend due to the restraining order, but your allies can. The key is documenting everything Karen does while we build the federal case. Marcus pulled out a tactical plan that reminded me why I'd never want to face him in combat. Riley stays safe and hidden. Tommy records everything at tonight's meeting. Dr. Martinez takes detailed notes about who says what. Jessica monitors all digital communications in real time from her mobile command center. Mobile command center? She grinned, pointing to a van parked outside. Surveillance equipment, communication intercepts, real-time data analysis. If Karen tries anything electronic tonight, I'll know immediately. David, the forensic accountant, had his own crucial role. I'm filing emergency asset preservation orders. Karen can't sell, transfer, or hide any assets while under investigation. Her husband's mortgage business gets frozen, her brother's construction company gets audited, and their personal accounts get monitored. That's going to make them panic, Dr. Martinez observed. Good, Webb said via video. Panicking criminals make mistakes, and we'll be watching for every single one. But the breakthrough moment came when Tommy played one of his grandfather's final recordings, made just 2 weeks before the old man died. "Karen came by today," Mr. Kowalski's voice whispered from beyond the grave. "Wanted to know if I'd documented anything about the missing pool money. Told her I was just a confused old man, but I saved everything just in case someone needed the truth someday." The emotion in that recording hit everyone like a physical blow. This sweet old man had spent his final months protecting evidence that would eventually bring down his tormentor. "He knew," Tommy said, wiping his eyes. "Grandpa knew she was stealing, knew she was dangerous, and knew someday someone would need proof." As our team prepared for battle, I realized we weren't just fighting for my property anymore. We were fighting for every neighbor Karen had robbed, every community she'd betrayed, and every future victim her criminal enterprise would claim. "Tonight, we end this," Marcus announced. "Karen thinks she's fighting one isolated homeowner. She has no idea she's about to face federal law enforcement backed by years of evidence." The taste of impending justice was sweeter than victory champagne. But first, we had to survive whatever desperate moves Karen planned for tonight's meeting. Karen's desperation unleashed a final week of sabotage that made her previous attacks look like gentle suggestions. It started Monday morning when I discovered my pool equipment had been vandalized. Someone had poured concrete mix into the filtration system, turning my pristine saltwater paradise into an expensive concrete sculpture. The acrid smell of chemical reactions filled the air as I stared at $8,000 worth of destroyed machinery. But the security cameras Jessica had installed caught everything. "Look at this," she said, pulling up crystal-clear footage on her laptop. 2:47 a.m., Karen's husband and brother sneaking around your backyard with bags of concrete mix. "That's criminal vandalism," I said, watching them destroy my equipment with the methodical precision of experienced saboteurs. Gets better. They're wearing identical work shirts from Emergency Pool Repair Services, a company that doesn't exist. They're creating fake paper trails to justify being on your property. Tuesday brought psychological warfare. Every neighbor received anonymous letters claiming I was a dangerous individual with a history of mental instability who posed immediate threats to community safety. The letters included fabricated police reports, fake psychiatric evaluations, and doctored photos showing me supposedly threatening elderly residents. Dr. Martinez intercepted one of these letters from her own mailbox, her face pale as she read the elaborate lies. "Riley, this is sophisticated character assassination. Professional-grade propaganda designed to isolate you completely." The letters worked. Neighbors who'd supported me began avoiding eye contact. Parents pulled their children inside when I appeared. The Hendersons installed security cameras pointed directly at my house. Wednesday escalated to financial terrorism. Someone had contacted my insurance company with detailed reports about dangerous modifications to my property that supposedly violated my homeowner's policy. They'd also reached out to the county tax assessor, claiming I'd hidden major improvements to avoid property tax increases. "Ms. Blake, we're required to investigate claims about undisclosed modifications," the insurance investigator explained, photographing every inch of my pool area. Someone provided very specific allegations about unpermitted electrical work and structural changes. The genius of Karen's strategy was using legitimate processes to destroy me. Every attack came through official channels, making her look like a concerned citizen rather than a criminal conspirator. But Thursday brought the nuclear option. "Riley, you need to see this," Jessica called, her voice tight with alarm. She'd been monitoring digital communications from her surveillance van, tracking Karen's electronic activities in real time. She pulled up a series of encrypted messages between Karen and someone identified only as Solution Provider. Initial package deployed successfully. Target isolated and defensive. Ready for Phase 2 implementation. "Phase 2? I asked, my blood turning to Arctic water. "Property damage escalation with plausible deniability. Make it look accidental but comprehensive." The next message made my stomach drop into my shoes. "Pool contamination scheduled tonight. Electrical system compromised tomorrow. Gas line accident Friday if other methods insufficient." Gas line accident. They were planning to blow up my house. "We need to call the FBI right now," I said, reaching for my phone. "Already did," Jessica replied. "But there's a problem. The messages are going through international servers with advanced encryption. By the time we trace them, the accidents could already happen." That's when Marcus arrived with news that made the situation infinitely worse. "Karen's liquidating everything. Her husband's been transferring money to offshore accounts all week. They're planning to disappear after tonight's HOA meeting. Disappear? Private jet tickets to a country with no extradition treaty. They're not just trying to destroy you anymore, they're trying to escape with the money before federal charges get filed. Dr. Martinez joined our emergency session with intelligence from her prosecutor ex-husband. The federal investigation got accelerated. FBI Financial Crimes Unit is moving to arrest warrants based on our evidence. But Karen somehow learned about the investigation. How? Someone leaked information. Could be her husband's mortgage industry connections, could be corruption in local law enforcement. Point is, she knows federal agents are coming. The implications hit like thunderbolts. Karen wasn't just desperate anymore, she was cornered. And cornered criminals with nothing to lose become infinitely more dangerous. Tonight's meeting isn't about community votes, Marcus said grimly. It's about creating chaos while they execute their escape plan. Jessica pulled up more intercepted communications that made my hands shake. Meeting distraction confirmed. Multiple diversions planned. Primary target elimination during confusion. Primary target elimination, I whispered. They're not just trying to ruin me anymore. No, Marcus confirmed, his military experience evident in how quickly he'd assessed the threat level. They're planning to kill you tonight, make it look like an accident during community chaos, then disappear with millions in stolen money while everyone's focused on the tragedy. The autumn air suddenly felt thick with the smell of impending violence. We're not dealing with HOA harassment anymore, Dr. Martinez said quietly. We're dealing with people who've decided murder is preferable to prison. The final battle wasn't going to be fought in a community center with parliamentary procedures. It was going to be a fight for survival. Friday morning arrived with Karen's most audacious move yet. She was throwing her invasion party right on schedule, as if attempted murder plans were just another item on her social calendar. I watched from my kitchen window as catering trucks arrived at 9 a.m., followed by a rental company delivering tables, chairs, and a massive sound system. The smell of barbecue smoke began drifting across my backyard as Karen directed operations like a general commanding troops. She's actually doing it, I said into my phone, speaking to Jessica, who was monitoring everything from her surveillance van parked 3 blocks away. 53 people confirmed attending according to the social media chatter I'm tracking, Jessica replied. She's invited everyone who received those fake letters about you. This isn't a pool party, it's a lynch mob with appetizers. By noon, Karen had transformed my backyard into a crime scene waiting to happen. She'd somehow acquired bolt cutters and was directing her husband to repair my pool gate locks. The metallic grinding sound of severing metal made my teeth ache. Riley, you need to get out of there now, Marcus commanded through our secure communication channel. FBI tactical team won't be in position until 6 p.m. You're sitting in a kill zone. But I couldn't leave. Every instinct screamed that abandoning my property would let Karen claim victory and disappear with her stolen millions. Plus, Jessica's surveillance equipment needed someone inside to monitor the situation. I'm staying, but I've got insurance. My insurance was Detective Morrison, who'd stationed himself across the street in an unmarked car after we'd briefed him on the murder plot. He couldn't arrest anyone without federal backup, but he could document everything and respond to immediate threats. At 2 p.m., the party guests began arriving, and I realized Karen's psychological warfare had worked perfectly. These weren't just neighbors. They were an angry mob convinced I was a dangerous criminal who threatened their community safety. There she is, someone shouted as I appeared on my patio. The crazy one who's been terrorizing everyone. Mrs. Patterson led a group of elderly residents toward my house, waving printed copies of the fake police reports about my supposed mental health issues. "We know what you've been doing," she screamed. "Harassing our HOA president, filing false complaints, threatening violence against senior citizens." The crowd's energy felt electric with misplaced righteousness. Karen had turned my neighbors into unwitting accomplices for whatever she planned next. But the real horror show began when Karen took center stage by my pool, using the portable microphone system like she was hosting a rally. "Friends, thank you for coming to reclaim our community space," she announced, her voice amplified across the entire neighborhood. "Today we take back what belongs to all of us." The crowd cheered as Karen's brother began setting up what looked like demolition equipment near my pool house. "She's going to destroy everything," I whispered to Jessica through my earpiece. "Worse than that. Worse. Look at what her husband's carrying." I peered through my blinds and saw Karen's husband approaching my house with what looked like electrical equipment and several red containers that reeked of gasoline. Gas cans and electrical tools, Jessica confirmed. They're planning to make it look like an electrical fire that spreads to a gas explosion. You'll be trapped inside, the house burns down, and they claim it was an accidental tragedy during their community event. The diabolical genius of the plan made my blood freeze. 50 witnesses would swear Karen was hosting a peaceful community gathering when my house spontaneously combusted due to faulty wiring from my illegal pool installation. "Riley, get out now!" Detective Morrison's voice crackled through the emergency channel. "I can see them positioning around your house. This is about to turn lethal." But as I headed for my back door, Karen's voice stopped me cold. "And now let's deal with the person who's been terrorizing our peaceful community." Through my kitchen window, I watched her point directly at my house while addressing the crowd. Riley Blake has been harassing elderly residents, filing false police reports, and threatening violence against anyone who challenges her illegal activities. The time for patience is over. The crowd's roar sounded like a medieval mob demanding blood. Karen had whipped 50 neighbors into believing I was their enemy, creating perfect cover for murder disguised as community justice. "She's hiding in there like a coward," Karen continued, her voice carrying pure venom, "probably planning her next attack on innocent families." Someone in the crowd shouted, "Let's get her out." Another voice yelled, "Make her face what she's done." The taste of pure terror filled my mouth as I realized Karen had created the perfect storm. 50 enraged neighbors demanding I come outside, demolition equipment ready to destroy evidence, gasoline and electrical tools positioned for accidental house fire, and federal backup still hours away. I was trapped in my own home, surrounded by people who wanted me dead without even knowing they were being manipulated by criminals. The final battle was about to begin, and I was outnumbered 50-1. The crowd was chanting, "Come out, come out," when salvation arrived in the form of flashing red and blue lights that painted my kitchen walls like a disco from hell. But it wasn't just Detective Morrison's backup. It was a convoy that looked like the finale of a crime drama. FBI tactical vehicles, county sheriff's department, state police, and news vans drawn by the commotion of 50 people surrounding a house. "Federal agents, nobody move!" The voice boomed through a megaphone with enough authority to stop a stampede. Through my window, I watched FBI agents in tactical gear emerge from black SUVs, their presence immediately deflating Karen's mob like a punctured balloon. The smell of fierce sweat and confusion replaced the earlier barbecue smoke as neighbors realized they'd been caught in something much bigger than a community dispute. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is Agent Sarah Blake, no relation, with the FBI Financial Crimes Unit. We're executing federal warrants for the arrest of Karen Whitfield, Robert Whitfield, and William Morrison on charges of racketeering, conspiracy, mail fraud, wire fraud, and attempted murder." Karen's face went through more color changes than a mood ring in a microwave. Her mob of supporters began backing away as they processed the words "attempted murder." But Karen, cornered and desperate, made one final play that almost worked. "This is harassment," she screamed into her microphone, her voice cracking with panic. "These federal agents are working with Riley Blake to frame innocent community leaders. She's been bribing them to persecute us." For a moment, the crowd hesitated. Karen's accusation sounded just plausible enough to create doubt. Then Marcus Thompson stepped forward with a voice that could command respect from a hurricane. "Karen, where's the $180,000 you stole from the community pool fund?" The question hit like a thunderbolt. 50 neighbors who'd paid for a pool they never got suddenly understood why FBI agents were making arrests. "I don't know what you're talking about. Every resident here paid monthly assessments for 18 months, Marcus continued, his military bearing giving him natural authority. "We all paid for a community pool that never got built. Where's our money, Karen?" The crowd's energy shifted like tectonic plates. Anger that had been directed at me suddenly pivoted toward Karen as neighbors connected dots they'd ignored for years. "You stole our pool money?" Mrs. Patterson demanded, her voice shaking with rage. "That's why we never got our amenities?" Mr. Kim added, his face reddening. Agent Blake seized the moment perfectly. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have evidence that Mrs. Whitfield embezzled $180,000 in HOA funds, used them for personal renovations, then attempted to murder Ms. Riley Blake to cover up her crimes." The gasps from the crowd sounded like a collective punch to the gut. The harassment campaign against Ms. Blake was designed to drive her away before anyone asked questions about the missing pool money. When that failed, Mrs. Whitfield escalated to attempted murder disguised as community justice. Karen made one last desperate attempt to control the narrative. "They're lying. Riley Blake has been terrorizing this community for months. Ask anyone, she's filed false police reports, harassed elderly residents." "Those were false reports filed by you," Agent Blake interrupted, holding up evidence folders. "We have recordings of you impersonating Ms. Blake on phone calls, digital evidence of you creating fake documents, and financial records showing you paid for fraudulent harassment campaigns." The mic drop moment came when Agent Blake played a recording that echoed across the entire neighborhood through Karen's own sound system. Karen's voice, crystal clear and unmistakable. "The Blake problem needs permanent solution. Make it look accidental during community gathering. Gas leak, electrical fire, whatever works." The silence that followed was so complete you could hear pool filters humming 3 houses away. "That's my voice," Karen whispered, her face draining of all color. "But someone must have. That's not." Even her own husband was backing away from her, his face filled with the horror of someone realizing he'd married a sociopath. "Karen Whitfield, you're under arrest," Agent Blake announced as federal agents moved in with handcuffs. "You have the right to remain silent." The crowd watched in stunned silence as the woman who'd terrorized their neighborhood for years was led away in federal custody. News cameras captured every moment as Karen's empire of lies collapsed in real time. But the most satisfying moment came when Mrs. Patterson approached me with tears in her eyes. "Riley, we owe you the biggest apology in the world. We believed her lies about you while she was robbing us blind." One by one, neighbors came forward with their own apologies, their own shame at being manipulated, their own gratitude that I'd survived long enough for the truth to surface. "You saved our community," Dr. Martinez said, giving me a hug that felt like forgiveness. "If you hadn't fought back, she would have stolen everything and disappeared." As federal agents loaded evidence into trucks and Karen's co-conspirators were arrested, I finally felt safe enough to step outside my own home. The taste of justice was even sweeter than I'd imagined. 6 months later, I'm floating in my pool, watching neighborhood kids splash around during our weekly community barbecue, and the water tastes like chlorine mixed with pure vindication. Karen got 3 years in federal prison plus $400,000 restitution. Her husband, 2 years for mortgage fraud conspiracy. Brother Bill, 18 months for impersonating officials and construction fraud. All banned from HOA management forever. The sound of those prison doors slamming was sweeter than my pool's perfectly calibrated filtration system. But the real victory? Our community's transformation. The recovered funds, $340,000 with penalties, gave us choices beyond our wildest dreams. Instead of just building the promised pool, we created the Kowalski Community Center, a stunning facility with the community pool Karen stole, plus playground, fitness center, and meeting spaces that actually serve residents instead of enabling tyrants. Tommy's grandfather would have loved watching construction crews build what his hidden evidence made possible. Every nail hammered felt like justice for the sweet old man who'd secretly protected us all. My pool became neighborhood headquarters during construction. Weekend barbecues turned my backyard into Recovery Central, the smell of grilling burgers mixing with children's laughter, creating the soundtrack of a community healing itself one shared meal at a time. Dr. Martinez won HOA presidency in a landslide, immediately implementing transparent finances and term limits preventing future dictatorships. Marcus became treasurer, bringing military-grade accountability to every penny. "No secret kingdoms anymore," Sarah announced at her first meeting. "Every decision gets documented, every vote recorded, every voice heard equally." Our case sparked nationwide change. Agent Blake told me we'd inspired federal legislation strengthening HOA oversight across America, helping convict corrupt boards in 17 states. "You started a revolution," she said. "Communities everywhere use your case as their roadmap for fighting back." My employer promoted me to cybersecurity director after my documentation skills impressed executives company-wide. Turns out, the obsessive detail that survived Karen's attacks made me excellent at protecting corporate data from other kinds of predators. But personal healing meant everything. Tommy moved back permanently, becoming my closest friend and next-door neighbor. We spend evenings on his grandfather's porch, drinking beer and sharing stories about the man who'd secretly saved us. Jessica launched a digital forensics business specializing in HOA fraud, using our case as proof of concept. She's helped homeowners in 12 states document corruption and recover millions in stolen funds. The romance nobody saw coming? Detective Morrison asked me out after the trial concluded. Apparently, investigating attempted murder together creates unique relationship foundations. He proposed last month beside my pool, the same spot where everything started. But the moment that made everything worthwhile happened when Mrs. Patterson brought her granddaughter to our community pool's grand opening. "Miss Riley," 6-year-old Emma said with adorable seriousness, "Grandma says you're why we have our swimming pool." "We all work together, sweetheart," I corrected gently. "But you started fighting the bad lady first, right?" Mrs. Patterson's eyes sparkled with tears. "That's exactly right, Emma. Miss Riley taught us how brave people stand up to bullies. That's when I understood the real victory. It wasn't defeating Karen or recovering money or even getting justice. It was proving ordinary people can topple corruption when they refuse to fight alone." The Kowalski Community Foundation, funded by restitution payments, now provides legal aid to homeowners battling HOA abuse nationwide. We've recovered over $2 million in stolen funds and saved dozens of families from losing homes to corrupt boards. Monthly emails pour in from people sharing their HOA nightmares. Most ask, "What would you do?" My answer never changes. Document everything, find allies, never surrender to bullies masquerading as authority. Because sometimes defeating monsters requires becoming the hero your community desperately needs. The smell of chlorine still makes me smile. My pool, the catalyst that exposed a criminal conspiracy, now hosts children's birthday parties, neighborhood celebrations, and summer evenings filled with the laughter of friends who became family through shared struggle. Every splash reminds me that standing up to corruption doesn't just save yourself, it saves everyone who comes after. Karen thought she could steal our dreams and destroy anyone who challenged her kingdom. Instead, she created the catalyst for the strongest, most united community I've ever experienced. Justice tastes even better when it's shared with people worth fighting for. Got your own HOA horror story? Drop it in the comments. You're not alone in this battle. And if this story inspired you to stand up to the petty tyrants in your neighborhood, smash that subscribe button and join the HOA Stories family for more epic tales where underdogs defeat corrupt power and communities win together.
That's all for today's HOA madness. If watching justice serve itself made your day, smash that like button, share your thoughts down below, and make sure you're subscribed. More outrageous neighborhood showdowns are just around the corner.